Hi-ho, you fantastic fish folk. Alright, so in my previous video I talked about a pretty common fish that a lot of people probably know. Betta fish, or also known as Siamese fighting fish. In this video, one of the things I want to talk about is another pretty common fish that I'm sure everyone's heard about, if not had at some point, and that is a goldfish. So obviously I just did a profile video. However, I really am not going to call this video a typical profile video compared to what I'm probably going to make more so in the future. Most of my profile videos are probably going to be more about how you can care for the fish, some tips on what you need to have, or you know, the parameters like temperature of the water, etc., stuff like that. However, this one is going to be a little bit different because I wanted to give you a brief story on how these guys got here, because they have been very patient and very hardy. They've been through quite a bit. Much better now in this 125-gallon tank, which is, I would say, probably suitable for be their forever home, unless I move them into a pond. As a matter of fact, the story for them begins where they did live in a pond. So the 5 comet goldfish in here actually originally lived in a pond. Before then, they were just in those feeder tanks. Can't remember if it was Petco, PetSmart. Got them from one or the other. You see, these guys are used often to feed other animals, such as turtles, snakes sometimes. These guys, however, got it pretty good. They got to move into a pond in a family member's backyard, and they were pretty happy. They grew pretty big. They were about like, I think the biggest one we had initially when we bought them from the store was maybe 2.5, 3 inches. The smallest one in the group now, I'd say, is he's definitely no shorter than 4 inches. In fact, he might even be more like 4.5 or 5 actually. Anyway, these guys lived in a pond for the previous year for about late spring, all of summer, and early fall. Once we started getting into the later part of fall, because we live in Iowa, thus winters get really cold, we went ahead and took them out of the pond because the pond is not very deep. Thus, it does freeze completely over top from bottom once it really starts hitting the full potential of what Iowa winters can bring. Had the pond been deep enough to where just the surface of the water would have only frozen over and that there would have been water underneath that, you know, is still in liquid form, the goldfish would have been able to stay in the pond. However, because that wasn't the case, we went ahead and took them out of the pond and moved them into what was meant to be a temporary tank. And this was that tank, a 36-gallon bow front. I knew from the get-go this tank was not going to be the most ideal situation, to put it somewhat gently, for these goldfish. The comets by themselves can grow up to a foot, and I didn't want to have them in there too long because if you do that, then you can stunt their growth, which is not healthy for them, and plus you're missing out on part of your fish if you don't give them the full demands that they need. I considered that having them in a less than ideal tank is better than just letting them stay in the pond and freeze to death in a big block of ice. That, and of course, once the weather got warmer and all that, they leave this 36 bow front and they go back into the pond. And my thought always was, okay, next winter, obviously they're going to be bigger, so I'll get them a bigger tank that'll be much more suitable for them then. But as you can clearly see, the 5 comets are no longer in a pond. So what exactly happened? The pond, which belongs to my fiance's parents, it kept breaking down. The filter, the pump and all that, year after each winter, always needed attention and all that. And as you can imagine, that got pretty old after a while. So they just decided that they just didn't want to do it anymore, and they wanted to do something else with their backyard rather than the pond. Nonetheless, 5 comet goldfish and a 36-gallon bow front tank, this was a problem. So I started a search for a new tank that would better suit these goldies. Which towards the end of my search is when I found this guy. And me and my fiance loved him. Obviously the gold and the black, awesome combination. And we got him while we continued our search, which only made having to find a bigger tank for these guys even more urgent. However, as you can clearly see, thanks to one of my local fish stores here in the area, I was able to find this 125-gallon for a pretty reasonable deal. So quick facts, obviously, as I said earlier, these are comet goldfish. They are kind of captive bred based off of the traditional goldfish, and they are mostly used as a feeder fish and all that, like I said earlier, to snakes and turtles. Although, as you can clearly see, when you let them grow, they turn into absolutely beautiful fish. Anyway, guys, that's a fun little story about how those goldfish ended up in that 125 there right behind me. But the best part of this story to me is the ending. As it's a happy ending. Everybody now, the 5 comets and the fantail, now live happily inside this 125-gallon tank where they can grow, reach their full potential, and overall, just a lot better situation for them overall. In addition to that, now I have a 36-gallon Beaufort that is available for some new fin friends to come on down here to the fish room. What's coming in here? Well, first and foremost, gotta clean the tank up, gotta get some water going in here, get it cycling and such. And got some ideas, maybe was thinking tiger barbs might be a cool deal. Get some typical tiger barbs, mix with some green tiger barbs and some albinos. Or just maybe some rosy barbs and cherry barbs, or some assorted tetras, or some rams or something. I mean, got all sorts of ideas in my head, and no, can't put anything in there though if you don't get the tank full of water and start cycling though. Hey, if you like this little fish story and maybe you want me to give some more down the road here, give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment. And if you like what I do overall on this channel, show your support by hitting the subscribe button and stay in the loop with everything I do down here in terms of new additions, fish store adventures in the future, as well as projects I got going on. And speaking of projects, by the way, whoa, what is going on with this thing? Check back in some future videos here in the near future and you'll find out. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching my video here, and Fintastic Freak out.